Hi, it's Charlie Tuna and the Charlie Tuna Show, and right now we're visiting with Gunnar and Matthew Nelson. They're starting their 25th anniversary Ricky Nelson Remembered Concert Tour. How are you guys?
Oh, we're
Doing great.
It couldn't be better if we were twins, and we happen to be.
That's right.
That's something I always talk to twins about. I coached twins in sports when my kids are growing up, and I don't have them, but the twins I coached were very, very careful about distinguishing themselves from the other one. They always had some little thing they wanted to be their own person.
Well, I have a different freckle. It's about.
Is that about it?
Well, you know, I think it's from years of complexes formed when your mother actually put you in matching sailor suits when you were kids.
Yeah, that always happened up until about the age of 2 or 3. And
Did it?
Yeah.
Did you then insist on dressing differently from each
Yeah,
other?
I wanted a different colored sailor suit.
Did you know at the very beginning who your father really was? When was the time you recognized this guy is huge? He's an icon.
I remember the moment. I think Gunnar and I were almost 4 years old. Up until that, it was just pop. You know, he's a guy that he sung and stuff like that. But we had never really been to a big concert before. And we went on a family vacation, kind of working vacation to Hawaii, and he was playing at a hotel there. And I just kind of connected the dots when I saw this guy on stage who looked a lot like my dad. And everybody was applauding, and he was happy. And I connected. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. Pop's a big deal.
Yeah.
And, I mean, up until that point, we always joke and say we thought that everybody's dad was a rock star and grandparents were on TV. And, you know, it's just kind of like no big deal.
I mean, I hate to be punny, but it really was all relative because I can't remember a time when he didn't have a guitar in his hand and there wasn't music going on around the house and someone was on TV or something like that. That's just the way it was when we were growing up. But we weren't there for the whole Ricky rockabilly years and stuff. I mean, we grew up during the Stone Canyon Band days, and that's when you first came to Los Angeles.
Right.
And music was great. Our dad was going through this really fearless time because the Ozzie and Harriet show had been canceled, and he could come from inspiration rather than desperation because no one was looking over his shoulder. No one cared anymore.
Yeah.
He represented 50s America, and the Summer of Love was here, and I guess Bob Dylan and George Harrison, all his friends, convinced him to go back to the drawing board and learn how to be a writer. And that's what we grew up with. Acoustic guitars, killer vocals coming from down the hall. He was rehearsing the first incarnation of the Stone Canyon Band in the pool house.
I mean, Randy Meisner, who was his bass player, went on to co-found the Eagles. So
Wow.
it was kind of that was the stuff we grew up with. We just found out that our sometimes babysitter, a little young, was Mama Cass Elliot.
That's what I've heard, yes.
Yeah,
well,
so-
your neighbors were pretty famous too, right? George Harrison was there?
Yeah, he rented the house next door. I just remember he was very sweet, and I called it a funny voice. I didn't know that meant an accent. But he used to sign everything Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Is that
Hare Krishna.
right?
Yeah, he was really into the Krishna thing, and I just remembered him being incredibly sweet.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And Bob Dylan would be over there shooting pool sometimes?
Yeah, he would be there, and you know, all these people would knock on the door and want to hang out and listen to records with our dad. I mean, if you read Dylan's book, I think his first chapter, he talks about listening to Ricky Nelson, saying his voice was like a calm in a storm.
Yeah.
And I think that's just really neat. And of course, our dad did some great versions of Dylan songs.
Mm-hmm.
And I just saw Dylan at the Santa Monica Civic and stuff, and it just really connected a lot of dots for me that, you know, he was such an influence on our dad as a writer. And, of course, on millions and millions of people. But it was kind of neat to have it be very personal.
Well, we're sitting here, too, with Guinness World Record holders, aren't we?
Well, you know, according to our sister, we're the only family in history with 3 successive generations of #1 hit makers, which is kind of cool.
It is.
We don't, you know, we kind of hit the gene pool lottery.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean,
So
your grandfather, Ozzie Nelson, has a hit, right? #1 song back in, what was it, the 30s?
35, yeah, with
Okay.
a song called And Then Some. They toured for 14 years.
Well, then, and Ozzie also did probably what would be recognized as the first video with Travelin Man.
That's right, Travelin Man. They actually did 2 different versions of that video. The first time they did it, there were no travel scenes behind our dad. He was just up there like he normally did at the end of the show and sang Travelin Man, big hit. And then it just kept on coming around. The song was huge. It took on a life of its own, so he was trying to figure out some way to make it different.
And have a second life. I
And
think.
have a second life. So he decided to put some travel scenes behind our father's performance, and the first conceptual rock video was born.
There you are. Well, listen, we have the 25th anniversary CD that's out.
Right.
Like Father, Like Sons, and you're on tour right now. It's
We
starting
are.
in Los Angeles.
We are. Well, we thought this was the appropriate place to actually start the 25th anniversary tour of Ricky Nelson Remembered. Matthew has been working really hard putting some audio-visual components together on the show. So it's kind of like, the best way to describe it is it's a combination between a high-energy rock concert and an A&E biography episode. You get both. I mean, Rick Nelson was arguably the most televised rock star in history. He was on TV every single week. And we had 435 episodes of the Ozzie and Harriet Show and interviews from the likes of Paul McCartney and John Fogerty and Chris Christopherson and Chris Isaac to pull from. So people actually get immersed in all things Rick Nelson. And we're out here kind of celebrating his life and his contributions to the music industry. It's just been 25 years after we lost him, and we get to, I guess, feel like his good son's out there doing good work and stuff. The music's just great.
They can find out where you're going to be appearing on your website too, right?
Go to RickyNelsonRemembered.com. It's really super easy, and everything's on there. This new record is on there. All of our tour dates are on there.
This CD, I got to tell you, when I listen to this and listen to these songs of your dad's that you redid, I got chills.
I'm a traveling man, made a lot of stops all over the world, and in every port I own the heart of at least one lovely girl.
You guys sound so much like your dad. I would almost shut my eyes and say, okay, it's just unbelievable.
Well, I appreciate that. We basically play the songs the way that we remember from the shows in mostly the 70s and early 80s. He did teach us one thing. I never saw our dad play a show that he didn't care about it.
Yeah.
He always played it like he meant it. And that was, I think, the best lesson that we ever got. And fortunately
Uncle
for
Dave
us,
said that he was rock and roll's biggest fan, and he really was. He played every show like a little rockabilly rebel. He really cared. He wasn't phoning it in ever.
and so we do the same thing. When we're up there doing this, obviously it's us doing these songs, but you can't help but hear our dad through it and the fact that we loved him.
You channeled him. You channeled him on this. It's like father, like sons, and it's the Ricky Nelson tribute. The Nelsons are on tour, and you're even going to be in England by the end of this year, too. So.
Yes, we are, for the first time in ever.
Ever. First time.
They actually never got the TV show over there. According to Paul McCartney, he was just a rock star. They never got Ozzy and Harriet. So, yeah, we got to bring the music to the shores.
You sure did. Well, Gunnar and Matthew Nelson, thank you very much for stopping by today. So appreciated, and continued success. And they'll be appearing at a concert hall near you soon.
Come see us.
One more day, one more night, one more chance.